Frack on to the episode of Frack The Canon. This is the Just Us League episode. Just me and Sarah. What is up, Sarah? How are you? It's been a minute since you've done one of these. How are you?
I'm good. How you been?
I'm good. Just busy with work, and then I know you've been busy with work too. Just tired. Just tired in general of everything. You know. How about yourself? Like,
Yeah, just working. Between like my job and my Lego store, it's been busy.
Is there a site you want to lead the people to for your Lego store?
Yeah, if anyone wants to buy Legos, I'm selling them. It's if you're on a Bricklink, it's called Sara Builds is my store. So if anyone's interested, I like make the sets all really nice. I make sure there's good quality pieces in them, and I'm basically selling them like really cheap. So.
And you can see the quality in her video, Sara Builds.
Yeah, and some of those sets have ended up on my site, though none of my Star Wars ones end up on my in my store.
I wonder why.
Those get like put in my personal collection.
All right, so we're gonna talk about this episode. It's Dune, Warner Brothers' new Dune. I don't remember. I remember the original one. I remember people making it kind of like I vaguely remember seeing the first one. I don't think I ever saw the original one, the 84 one. But I remember people making fun of it, like it was so tacky, it was so corny, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, they're going to do, and then finally everyone's going to do Dennis Deneuve, who did, I liked his Arrival, his first movie he did. Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't like his Blade Runner 2049. So this one, I'm like, oh, you're 50-50 with me. So I was like, honestly, I fell asleep a couple times during the movie twice. So I just remember them being like, this is kind of like the space version of Lord of the Rings, where all they do is just walk and talk. This was your idea, sir. How did you feel about Dune?
I actually liked it. So I actually have seen the Patrick Stewart Dune movie, and I feel like it was made at a time where they didn't have like the technology to make the book into what the movie needed to be. I think that's a lot of the hate it got, like, and I don't think they came with like, I feel like this Dune, they came with a plan, but like we're doing a very specific part of the first book, and we're not going to go beyond that. And that being said, it was a very long movie. I don't know about you, but I watched in two parts so that I wouldn't fall asleep. I watched it in one night and then finished on the other night. And I want to take this moment to promote, like, keep putting your stuff on streaming services instead of just doing this only theaters thing. Like, I have been loving watching theater movies at home, but for this reason, like it was a long movie and I was tired, and I know people are busy but like, yeah, I think they finally, like, I was watching it and like at one point I was just like, this is a cinematic movie. Like, I'm so used to watching like trashy TV nowadays, and I just, even on my like at home theater, I was like, this is very cinematic and pretty and expensive. I think at one point I said, this is an expensive movie.
It looked very expensive. I remember this cost him a pretty penny. I remember trying to get involved in stuff like that. I remember he had dreams and everything. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like a fantasy movie, because the way they talked, it reminded me of with sci-fi backdrop, because they kept using swords and everything. And CJ is the one that pointed out this to me. Shout out to CJ, who can't be. He's in a better place right now. He's at work.
You sound like he's dead.
He's at work right now. I don't know why I would do that. I just gave it to my head like that. But he said, "Dude, where are the guns?" I'm like, "You're right. There are no guns in this movie. It's all swordplay."
They can't use guns. So I
can you explain that? Can you?
Full disclosure, I have never read the books. This to me falls in the same category as you said, even Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, where I look at the books and I'm like, I'm never gonna enjoy reading these. They're too dense, too much detail. Like, I like my quick action books, and so like I've not read the book, but I watched the movie with someone who had, and those shields. So like, you know, he had those shields that showed up. The reason they fight with swords because the shields stop anything that moves fast. So if you shoot someone, it'll just fall off the shield. But if you have a sword, you can stab someone through the armor, the armor that they have around them, those like force field shield things.
That would have been a good moment to show and not to show and tell, you know. But that were like, oh, how was I supposed to know that? So,
yeah.
You know, like, was that ever put in the movie?
No, this was told to me.
See?
So like I again, like I don't know what kind of audience you're like catering to. I definitely had the benefit of watching it with someone who had read the books and somewhat remembered it and could explain certain things to me. Like I know the next movie is probably going to involve a large time jump, which I would not know at this point, because apparently the first book features his sister as like kind of an adult. So like obviously his mom's like pregnant right now. So I have a feeling the next movie might start with like a time jump, but of course I don't know for sure. But
I don't remember. I fell asleep a lot, so for a good chunk, because I'm like, story wise, I have no idea where they were. I'm like, so there's the first act, second act, and when that ends, I'm like, so wait, what? Like it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, they're either walking off to the mountain. I'm like, they're flying off or going down. I'm like, so what happened? What was the story? I personally didn't understand the story myself. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, maybe because I did fall asleep like twice, watching it twice. But can you explain what the story was, Sarah?
So there's these two fighting houses in this like sci-fi world. So this one house, there's like this emperor who's in charge of everything, and he gives the one house's planet to the other house, and the other house takes it over. And that's the main character, Timothy Chalamet. He goes there, and it's this very wealthy planet because there's this thing on it called spice, which they use as it's like energy, like and it's also a drug that gets you like high and you can hallucinate. So so they but then the house that they took it from comes back and tries to kill the other people that were given to it. And so Timothy Chalamet and his mom go and hide in the desert, and there's the worms and all the other desert stuff. So there's a lot of like dynasty and house fighting, but I actually found, because I've tried to read the book. I think I made it through the first 50 pages, and I found this a much more palatable version of that. There's a lot of like house and fighting and all the other stuff in the books, and I think they did a good job of boiling that down in the movie. Maybe because you fell asleep, it was a little more. You should have watched it in 2 parts, Renee.
I didn't know it was gonna be that long. I'm like, okay, like I like Arrival. I found I don't watch it. I don't watch it. I saw it here too. I watched it in DVDs. I'm like, okay, I watched it in one sitting. Blade Runner 2049. I saw. I'm like, I was nodding my head a little bit, but I was with Bobby, my old boss at KMBT. I'm like, not so bad. Okay, I'm not. I felt 50-50 on it. This is what I'm just like. I don't care. I don't know. I just did not care at all. I'm like, a lot of talking, a lot of like, it reminded me of feudalism. Like there's a lot of like, he's the prince of this house, and then he has the servants. I'm like, so is this a sci-fi movie or is this a fantasy movie dressed up as a sci-fi? It took me a while to get over that. I'm just like, personally, I'm like, no offense to anyone, no disrespect to Dune. I know it's highly regarded in sci-fi, fantasy, and in our main genre niche, but I'm like, not for me.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I like the spectacle and the story behind it. I'm glad they did a second movie. I think maybe the second movie will have a little more action in it, and
that too. I was expecting more action myself. So, what were your favorite moments? What were your favorite characters in the movie?
So I found this completely hilarious. Like Zendaya is promoted as like this big major character in the movie. Like she did all the press and stuff. And if you watch it, she's like in the movie for like 10 minutes. Like he has those dream sequences about her where she just like, I think it's the same footage over and over again. And then he has one scene at the end of the movie with her. And I just remember watching that and like laughing about it. It reminded me of that terrible movie with Angelina Jolie where she was like in a cave. But anyway, she was in all the press, and then she had like one scene in the movie. So that was kind of like the same deal for this one for me. But I liked anything with the worms. I find them like a fun, like not really villain, but like like just interesting, like because so since I've seen, I think there's a sci-fi TV series of Dune that I've seen, so I know a little bit more than just what's revealed in this movie. So I'm interested in how the worms are going to be part of like the ongoing story. And then the other thing is I actually really like the evil house, like the bad guy, like he's like bathing in that oil or
Yeah,
whatever.
what was that? I always woke up to that. And I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? What the frack is happening with this dude?
But like I find him a delightful villain. Like the fact that he hovers like in the air, like I really liked him as a character because I'm like he's like completely repulsive, but also like fascinatingly evil. Like so I think he's on track to become a really fun villain that has to be taken down.
You know who he reminded me of Jabba the Hutt a little bit. I wonder
Yes.
if Jabba the Hutt was inspired by that character because I know that book Dune came out before Star Wars.
Yeah.
But he gave me vibes of Jabba the Hutt. I'm like, okay. What else? Yeah, I don't know. Again, I can't speak. I did because I'm just like, you want to do it, so I wanted to do this episode because we haven't been on too in for like 3 months. I want to say like we talked.
It's been a while.
But yeah, no, I was just like, I want to have Sarah on. We'll just do it. No, what else? What else do you want to highlight? What else do you want to point out?
I just like the oh my god, what's his name? Aquaman.
Jason Momoa?
Yeah, I liked him in the movie too. His character, like he's like a badass fighter. But I think like sometimes I don't like him in movies. Like I feel like he's too much himself in a lot of his movies, like this crazy, like hyperactive kid. And I think he's a little more calm for this one, or maybe he just fit this character better. But like it was very cool to see him be somewhat more serious and not as like hyperactive and crazy.
Like I felt like it was I felt like he was what was his name? I felt like he was Aquaman on like those like people who are hyperactive. That medicine they gave him, what was that medicine called?
Ritalin.
Yeah, I feel he was that. He's on Ritalin.
Yeah.
Like, it's Aquaman on Ritalin right now. Because he was just like I almost wanted to pull out his trident and be like, hell yeah. Well, yeah, that's how it worked.
Yeah, like he was still himself, but had like a little less frantic energy.
Here's one thing that maybe you can explain to me because it bugged me. I don't know why. Those helicopter things that look like dragonflies.
Mm-hmm.
What was up with that? Because I'm like, why do you look like? Do you know anything? Or is it just part of that world?
I think it's just part of the world. I don't really know anything about it. I think if we tried to build those, it would not work. But
No,
future technology, not really something I can argue with because you can't go out and build it and say like this doesn't work because if we tried to build them, they wouldn't work. But yeah, I think it's just maybe the body is so light that the wings can propel it. But yeah, I don't think those are real.
If you build it, no one will come.
No.
I'm sorry. Final comments, final thoughts, anything?
Well, the other thing we haven't touched on is Timothée Chalamet, like spiritual, like his voice. I don't know exactly. Yeah, so his mom is part of some sort of I don't know if you would call it like a religious sect or I don't know exactly what you would call it, but
I wanted to say from what I understood in our world it would be called kind of like a witch.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. But yeah, so she's passed it down to him, which apparently wasn't supposed to happen. Like he was supposed to be like a girl. Like it's supposed to be for women. But I'm excited to see like when he uses his voice, he can like make people do what he wants, like command them.
Oh yeah. Is that what that was? I'm like,
yeah.
Is that what okay.
So I have a feeling that's gonna be a big part in the future, and it has a spiritual meaning among the native people on the planet too. Like they seem to think of him as like a savior or some sort of messiah almost. So we'll see.
All right, so yeah, I think we talked about the story. Like it was that, and then I was just because there was a lot of like Eternals. There was a lot of character development. Did you see Eternals yet?
No, I'm seeing it tomorrow, which might be like this episode's not going out right away, but
I'll keep my because I saw it and it reminded me of that. I'm like, it reminded me of that. I'm like, what's happening? That character was cool. What's the story? Like to me, the story was I'm still like, so the story was just the two warring houses for the planet. I'm like, I don't know. I just felt maybe I should give it one more go, but I don't know. Like if I
I
can.
mean, if it doesn't like resonate for you, I wouldn't force yourself to like it. I liked it. I thought it was visually spectacular. I think it's a good adaptation of what I know about the book, and I had fun. Like I haven't seen like I've mostly been watching popcorn movies, so to have something a little more serious was kind of like a welcome change for me. Like much in the tone of Arrival, like, you know, it's like a sci-fi movie with a little serious edge to it, and something a little slower too, like without being too slow.
I think I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Like again, people love Dune. I have vague memories of the first one. Yeah. I'd say personally, not for me. If you like it, I think you would like Sarah's recommendation, but not for moi. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining you. We'll see you same fracking time, same fracking channel. Frack off.